Welcome to Coaching with Confidence and Care podcast, inspired by common topics that arise in coach training, mentoring, and supervision. My name is Lubadia Samidze. I'm an executive and team coach, the founder of Authentically Coaching. I am also an active coach trainer, mentor, and supervisor. If you're listening, you're probably looking to deepen your skills as a coach. I hope this podcast will be a helpful resource for you and contributes to your journey. Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about something that every coach is facing, especially every new coach is facing, and that is how you can find your first clients while you're still in training. You know, as a coach educator myself, I always encourage our students, our own coaches in training, to start practicing with real people, as I say, as early as they can. Basically, after they learn the foundations of ethics, the coaching session structure, how to establish a coaching agreement, deliver a full session, and how to structure a whole coaching engagement, I think they are ready to coach their first clients, and I very much encourage them to do so. I also tell them that they can charge for their coaching services. And this is when I often see some resistance. Not because coaches do not want to coach others, but because I'm inviting them to step out of their comfort zone, for most of them at least. And they have a lot of limiting self-talk around this. Well, the truth is, if you don't practice, your coaching skills do not progress. And very often, if you get into the habit of playing safe and offering free coaching, you may have a challenge charging what your services are really worth later, even after you get your certification. So, in this episode, I really want to address this question and cover topics like how you introduce yourself to your first coaching clients, what you can say, what you cannot say about yourself, how you can structure your fees, how to get more confident about finding your first clients. I hope that you'll find a way that works for you. So let's get started. Of course, one of the first things to consider here would be ethics. As coaches, we follow the code of ethics of our respective association. In this episode, I will refer to the ICF code of ethics because that's the one I'm adhering to most of the time in my practice. However, all coaching associations have very clear ethical guidelines around misrepresentation. What does misrepresentation mean? It means that you cannot say what you are not, or say that you have what you really do not have. Well, say if you do not have an active credential, even if you meet requirements for that credential, but you have not obtained your credential yet, you cannot call yourself a credentialed coach. Even if you had a credential before, you cannot say that you have an active credential if it has already expired. So, if you are not a certified coach yet, you cannot call yourself a certified coach because you have not finished your program yet. What you can say is that you are a coach in training. You can say that you are 50% through a training or 70% through a training. You are getting ready for your first or your advanced coaching credential. These are all okay to say. And there's nothing wrong about being a coach in training. Let me remind you that the ICF officially supports coaches in training in taking paid clients after they start their training. Not after they finish their training, but after they start their training. Which means that you have this permission, you have the approval from a major coaching federation to start coaching once you start your training, and most realistically, once you get to the point in your training when you already know how to deliver coaching sessions, both one-off sessions and longer coaching engagements. Then, once you make the decision that you are ready to find some of your first clients, there may be some other deals, as I call them, that you need to make with yourself. And one of those deals could be deciding on and really owning the value that you can bring with your work. I totally understand that when you do not have so much coaching experience, you may not have a lot of long-term evidence of your coaching. We've all been there. Of course, we don't want to overpromise. We don't want to say something we cannot accomplish or we cannot give others. There could be a few approaches to addressing this challenge. And first step would be really trusting that you do have something valuable to give. One of the easiest ways to see the value of coaching as a client would be hiring a coach, working with a coach. And I mean hiring a coach yourself, not just getting coaching from your classmates, could help you experience a client journey with all their hopes, expectations, benefits, challenges, and outcomes, both short-term and long-term. It's an invaluable experience. Consider this option too. I really think this would be a shortcut to getting so much awareness from the client's side. You will need to work on your mindset too. If you're struggling with, do I have enough skills to create value as a coach while still in my training? Let me remind you that we are all good at giving advice, especially when someone asks for it. Most people hardly ever doubt whether they're really qualified to give advice on certain topics. When a friend comes to you with a problem or a colleague seeks for your opinion, how often do you really think, am I qualified to give advice about that? I'm not a trained consultant on the topic. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a counselor. How can I give advice about my friend's personal situation? We don't really think about these things, do we? We assume if someone asks us for advice, they're asking for our personal opinion, and they value our personal opinion, so we are sharing that with them. Does that mean that we do not see giving advice as a responsibility? But then when we think about coaching while still in training, even if you successfully deliver practice sessions as part of your training, but you still think you cannot take the responsibility to offer your coaching services to people outside of your training cohort, this is counterintuitive, isn't it? You know that coach training programs are super experiential. I doubt that you ever attend an accredited program that's purely theoretical and doesn't teach you how to work with people and deliver sessions. It is implied that if you're enrolled in an accredited coach training program, it includes a lot of practice and it includes feedback as well. So basically, you don't have to guess whether you bring value. You already know from your classmates' feedback or from your instructors and mentors' feedback. You know what you are good at and how you can help. So what I suggest here is for you to be more strategic about the feedback you receive. Document those insights as evidence of the value that your coaching work can bring. If someone says, you asked a wonderful question that helped me get unstuck, or you were so present in our session and created an opportunity for me to hear myself more clearly. Or maybe someone says, your questions are very insightful and sharp. Or maybe your active listening skills really help me pay attention to what's important in my own story. Do not waste this feedback. Do not discount this feedback. Document it, and if needed, talk additionally with your instructors or classmates to understand it better. I'm sure everyone will be very happy to tell you more about your strengths. Additionally, it would be really great if you could follow up on some of those sessions and see how the situations shifted. Then, with the permission of your coaches, of course, you could have a collection of mini case studies, which will give you and your first clients evidence of your work. They will serve as a confirmation that you can bring value, not just because people are being nice with you, but because you coached people around their actual real situations, even if that was during your training. And they made a certain progress with you as a result of your partnership. I often suggest investing your time in reflective work, putting things on paper. You can get a lot of value from those practices. You will not only develop your coaching skills, but you will also develop your coaching practice. One of my key philosophies and one of my key approaches in life in general is to try to kill two birds with one stone. Well, that's how the idea of this podcast was born. I do a lot of coach training, mentoring, and supervision, and there are so many valuable conversations happening, many times a week. There are so many important questions raised, again, many times a week. And I really wanted to do something with all those insights and all those questions and all those sharings that I was providing. And then transferring those ideas to podcast episodes sounded like a great idea for me to bring value to others and at the same time create a long-term resource like a library for the whole coaching community. So use this trick. I'm sure it's going to work for you as well. Let's see what other concerns are common when you're a coach in training starting to look for your first clients. Another concern may be about being too new to coach anyone. Again, if you are new, it doesn't mean that you cannot bring value, right? Even as a coach in training or as a newer coach, you have elevated certain skills to a higher level. You are listening much better and more intentionally. You've raised the quality of your presence, your relational skills, trust building skills, goal setting skills. You are much better at supporting and planning with others and asking insightful questions. Maybe you don't realize this yet, because now it all sounds so natural to you, so you may be discounting this. You may have forgotten what you were like, what those skills were like before you started your coach training. So you feel these skills are nothing special. Actually, they are very special. Now you're learning to use your skills professionally so that you can support others. So instead of having this self-talk, make a decision to own these new skills and intentionally get feedback from people about how these new skills of yours are supporting them in various situations. I think the stakes are so small when you are in training. So much is excused because you are a newer coach. You are supposed to do some research and discovery, and you're supposed to have questions. That is all very normal for someone who's in training or who has recently finished their program. There's a lot less pressure, and you can have a great motivation and a great reason to talk to people because you are doing your research as a newer coach. If you only talk to coaches, your instructors, or even your classmates, it's really not the same as talking to, as I say, real people. You may not get a very helpful feedback from your colleagues because they are already looking at all this with different eyes and through a different lens. So while you're still in training, or maybe shortly after your graduation, this is a great time to do CusDev interviews, customer development interviews. Actually, this never hurts, even if you're an experienced coach and you're transitioning to a new niche or a new market or you're launching a new service. What it means is that you are reaching out to people who you are aspiring to coach, but you are not necessarily reaching out to them for a sales call. That's not the intention. You're not selling anything in those calls. The intention is to connect and talk to them and check your hypothesis. You might have an idea about who you want to approach or who may need your services, but while the idea only lives in your head, you have not validated it yet. That means the idea may or may not work. Maybe you know your target audience, but you may not be able to accurately identify their motivations or what exactly they would hire a coach for. Reach out to your ideal clients for a customer development interview, create a safe space for them, and explain the reason, saying something like, I'm training as a coach and I think I'm really passionate about supporting people just like you. May I have a short interview with you about that? It's not a sales call, but I would love to check some of my ideas and get your feedback. And as a way to say thank you for your time, here's what I can offer. And you can offer a freebie, a pre-recorded webinar if you have one, a free coaching session if you are ready to do this, a worksheet or a handout or a guide or anything you can give as a gift. This strategy allows you to explore the audience, what they really want, what their real challenges are, and see what's valuable to them. Then with all that information from CusDevs, you can really create your best offers, niche down, you can speak your client's language, and not just explain the benefits from your own perspective. Let me share my experience with you. I did a series of CusDev conversations when I was training to become a coaching supervisor. What I learned was eye-opening. I would never imagine that some coaches could find the idea of supervision intimidating, and they were afraid of criticism or judgment. You know, I had experienced supervision before I enrolled in my own supervision training, so I knew how much of an acceptance space supervision was. However, so many coaches had no idea what that really was, so they interpreted it in a completely different way. I would have never realized that if I had not done those interviews. Coaches had so many questions that could make perfect supervision topics without realizing that supervision was the right place to discuss those topics. That was, as I say, eye-opening to me. That experience totally convinced me in the importance of doing CusDev interviews, so I hope you can try them too. Well, now let's move to the last point, which is anxiety around charging money for coaching. Newer coaches often have this dilemma. I don't know if I should be charging yet, but free feels like I'm devaluing it. Newer coaches might offer free sessions forever because they don't yet feel ready to charge, or they might even freeze when someone asks them how much, and they may undercharge out of fear or anxiety. So, what can be underneath? Although each situation is a unique blend of factors, and by the way, it's a perfect supervision topic as well, let me generalize for the purpose of this podcast and say that, according to my observations, very often there could be some need for clarity around value, around options, and the ethics of practice. Well, if you're not sure what value you're offering, it would be important to get the answer to that question before you approach someone with conversations about fees. Earlier in this episode, I've already shared some practices that can help you capture the value of the work that you do. We also talked about ethics, and now you know that as long as you do not misrepresent yourself or you do not overpromise, it is ethical to have paid clients even if you are still in training. I do want to offer you a few options of how you can structure your fees, but here's what I have to tell you first. Let your future clients decide whether or not they want to work with you. When you are not making yourself available to your ideal clients because you're still in training, even when you want to work with them and you are ready to work with them, you are deciding for them. And this is not a partnership. Coach training helps coaches cultivate the quality, the mindset of remaining unattached to outcomes. That basically means when you are sharing your observation, intuition, feeling, or comment, you're offering a practice or a tool to your coaching clients, you are accepting any choice your client decides to make. Even if they decline your offer, your invitation, it is totally fine. We should be unattached to this. The same is true about our coaching services. Our task is to introduce and offer someone the value. Their task is to decide if that's going to serve them. Try to see conversations with clients from this perspective as well. As practitioners, as entrepreneurs, our task is to describe and offer the way to support others in achieving meaningful results, and it's up to them to decide how to respond to your offers and invitations. Of course, I know that nobody likes rejections. Rejection is really, really tough, One of our basic psychological needs is relatedness. We do want to belong. We do want to feel accepted. But don't take this personally. People are not rejecting you personally. And most likely, they're not rejecting you because you're still in training or because you're a newer coach. Most likely, they simply don't see what's in it for them. Maybe the timing is not right. Maybe your service is not quite clear. But you won't know unless you ask. When people trust you as a person, and if they feel you are competent to help them resolve their challenges, then they're going to choose you, no matter what stage of training you're at. So stay clear, grounded, and transparent about where you are in your coaching journey, what you offer and what you don't offer. This will build trust. People respond to honesty. You could say something like, I am newly trained and I'm fully committed to this work and to you. This would feel more trustworthy than pretending to be an expert. Besides, coaching is about the other person. It's not about you. Your clients want to feel seen, heard, and held. And your curiosity, care, and presence are going to make an impact. You'll see that many people are not expecting a magic wand. And many clients are working with a coach for the first time too. They're often unsure what to expect. It's not that they're going to compare you against some other gurus that they worked with. 90% of the situations are really not like that. Maybe even more than 90%. You really need to practice some ways of introducing yourself and see which of those ways resonate with you and help you keep your integrity. I know that my mentees or coaching students often ask me for some specific examples of phrases that sound nice and professional and that they can use. And although I think there is no perfect recipe, I'm happy to offer you some structures that you could tweak and see how they're going to work for you. So maybe try something like, I'm training to become a professional coach and I'm focused on helping people navigate whatever challenges or transitions, so you name it. I'm not here to give advice, but to partner with you in finding your own best way forward. I am continually developing my skills through training, mentoring, and supervision. Although I'm still in training, I'm on track to my certification and I'm committed to offering you presence, partnership, deep listening, and all the ways to create awareness that I have. And as I said, tweak it and make it work for you. Well, next, I really want to offer you some practical tips on charging or setting your fees as a coach in training or a newly trained coach. I will share some practices that worked for me when I was starting out as a coach and also that worked for my own coaching students. First of all, in order to get more clarity, do the market research about what coaches typically charge in your area for the type of work that you'll be doing. Consider your target audience as well and what is meaningful and affordable to them. Then plan backwards. While you're still in training, start at maybe 50% of your target rate, that maybe every month that is getting you closer to your certification, you can raise your fees by 10% or 15% so that by the end of your training, you really kind of make it to your desired number. So this is called the sliding scale fee structure. The ICF issues a regular coaching industry report that provides some reference rates for different geographies, and you can use that as a guide. If you're part of a coaching network, you can also ask other people about the range. Rates in coaching could be so varied. So even asking for a range could be super helpful. You can frame your first clients as practice clients in your messaging and say something like, I'm currently training as a coach and I'm offering sessions at a discounted practice rate while I'm still in my training, or while I'll build my experience, or while I'll get the X amount of hours. So the next idea is to offer session packages instead of one-offs. I am a big supporter of packages because, first of all, they are beneficial for clients. They help clients progress. It's a structured coaching engagement, you can see the whole journey, you can set some milestones and track progress. Packages create a rhythm and allow you and your clients to track progress more meaningfully. You can do something like a 4-session intro package at a reduced rate. And then after that, you could offer a renewal like a 6-session package with 1 bonus session or check-ins, and then you can offer the option to renew month to month. Some coaches also create tiered pricing, 2 or 3 pricing tiers to accommodate different clients. For example, tier 1 could be for people with limited resources, say students, freelancers, stay-at-home moms, and other categories of people that you feel like supporting. Tier 2 could be a training rate, so the general public, the early adopters of your coaching could use. And tier 3 could be a special rate for people who you reach out to intentionally because you want to get more experience working with that category of clients, or you want to get experience working with a certain type of coaching requests. So get comfortable talking about these rates, and remember that there should be a safe space for your prospective clients to voice their concerns, questions, and say no to you or not yet. You can always have some alternative offers for them. It is important to keep a balance of give and take. If you are offering a reduced rate that you are not comfortable with, ask your clients for a testimonial, ideally a brief video reflection or a written passage that helps you build credibility in exchange for the reduced rate. Say something like, "I'd be happy to get a short testimonial about your experience, only if you feel comfortable, of course. Most clients are happy to help." Here's another strategy that I personally used to get my first 500 hours for my PCC credential while I was still in training. I approached people who I was interested in coaching. I knew how that could benefit them. Most of them were in leadership positions, or they were working on taking their next career move. And if they were interested in coaching with me, I approached them with an offer. And I said, "I'm building my hours right now, and I'm happy to offer you a 12-session package so that we have 6 months of sessions twice a month. And if you commit to 12 sessions, then you can choose your own rate between X and Y. You pick what you are willing to invest, and I can accept it as long as you commit to a long-term work. It's going to be a win-win. It's beneficial for you in the first place, and I am getting the hours in return so that I can get my credential sooner." I do not really like donation-based models, and I do not recommend them so much. Although they sound generous, they may lead to some ambiguity and devaluation of your offer, and that may be hard to get rid of. It may have a long-lasting negative impact. Set a lower fee, but set it yourself, because in this case, you can gain this sense of autonomy, which is another basic psychological need. You will feel that you are making your own choices and decisions. Even a symbolic fee helps clients show up more fully. When people pay even a modest amount, it creates commitment. They are more invested in the work if you are giving them a reason to prioritize themselves. I do encourage you to be confident, and that does not mean being pushy. Confidence means being clear and grounded and honest. You do not have to chase people or convince those who don't want it. You can extend the invitation to people who may get value from that. It may take some time before you get to your desired fees. You don't need to pretend to be further along to start. Okay, that's where we'll leave it for today. If you've been wrestling with a resistance that shows up when you think about finding clients, raising your fees, charging for coaching, I hope this episode helped put some words to it and maybe opened a new way of approaching it. This part of the journey is uncomfortable for a reason, but it doesn't mean that you are not ready. It means you are growing. If today's conversation felt useful, pass it on to other coaches who are in this phase. Your support means a lot to me. I'm always happy to connect on social media, so find me on LinkedIn or send me an email. And if you are looking for real support as you become the kind of coach you want to be, check out our programs, mentoring and supervision options at www.upthinkcoaching.com. We work with coaches at every stage of the journey, And we have our new cohorts this fall. Our advanced cohort starts in September. That's the PCC path. And our level 1 cohort starts in November. That's the ACC path. Next time, I want to unpack what a coaching mindset actually means and how to cultivate it. These are not just skills, but how you are and the ways you show up and make sense of what's happening in the room. I'll see you there.